Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create an organizational chart in Microsoft Visio 2010. So in 2010, when we have it open, you just need to go into File, and under New, we are going to look at the template categories to find our organizational chart template. I have it up here because it's one of the recently used templates that I have been using, but you may not have it here available, so you need to go and look in the template categories and go into the business category and then go into the organizational chart template here. Now when I click on that, you'll notice that there's also another one here called the organizational chart wizard. That lets you go through a wizard and step by step creates an org chart from a database file or an Excel file or linking into another system. But what we're going to do is just use the organizational chart here and create it manually. So go ahead and double click this. So it's going to come up with a empty sheet here. You're going to notice now that we have an org chart tab that's available. I'll cover the shapes pane first, and in the shapes pane what you're going to do is you're going to have different options available for you. We have our organizational chart shapes here, we have the executive manager, etc. These are going to be most of the shapes that you're going to be putting to create your org chart. We also have a quick shapes option here, which are a minimal set of them, but we're going to stay here with the organizational chart shapes here because it's going to give us the most options here. Let's go ahead and build out our org chart. So at the top, of course, we have our executive. This is the head honcho. Maybe this will be the CEO here. And when we put that shape, that initial shape on there, you'll notice that there's a window that comes up, these connecting shapes window. And basically it's giving you a tip on how to add shapes on here. So when you drag a shape and a shape that belongs into a hierarchy on top of that shape, it's going to automatically create the connectors if it's a shape or it's a row that belongs under a superior row. So that gives you a little bit of tip here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. We have that tip, so we know that. And under the CEO, maybe there's going to be 3 other C-level suite type of rows. Maybe the CFO. And under there, they're going to be managers in a way. So I'm going to put one under there. You'll notice now there is a connector here between this is going to be the CFO and the CEO. And this is kind of a small view, and if I wanted to get a more close-up view, what I can do is press the Control-Shift keys. You'll notice that the cursor has turned into a magnifying glass. So what I can do is I can kind of drag an area where I want to zoom into. So I can drag that area, and I've basically zoomed into it now. I released it, so I zoomed into that area. And I want to add 2 other managers under the CEO here. Maybe it's going to be a CFO. I'm going to drag it into the CEO area, and it's probably going to be a CMO, a Chief Marketing Officer. So let me go ahead and just give some names to the hierarchy here. Maybe the name, we'll just give first names. Joe. Joe is the CEO here. CEO. And maybe for the CFO, I'll call the CFO Mary. Mary is the CFO here. And maybe in the middle here we have our COO, or Chief Operating Officer. The CFO was his Chief Finance Officer. And for the COO, maybe we'll call him Jim. And Jim is the COO. And maybe for the Chief Marketing Officer, we'll call that person Charles. And that is the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. So this is our hierarchy here. So notice now we kind of built our C-suite. Let's kind of build out the hierarchy below. Maybe Mary has a couple positions under her. Maybe she's got like 3 people that work for her. And maybe Jim's got 3 people. But if you notice, there's this position, instead of dragging out this position 3 times, there's this actual shape here that gives you 3 positions automatically. So if I drag this over here to Jim, maybe Jim has 6. So if I drag it twice, you'll notice that now it's included here. But if you didn't want to drag out in 3s, there's actually this multiple shapes selection here. We can just drag it under Charles. Maybe Charles has 10 people working for him. And it lets you decide how many shapes you want to put there. Let's say 10. And what positions. Are they managers or positions? We're just going to stick with positions right now. Click OK. And you notice now it's a little bit crowded. So there's a couple ways to zoom out. I can press the Control key, and if you have a scroll on your mouse, you can just scroll that. This is what I'm doing. I'm just kind of using the scroll on my mouse. Or you can just use the slider here, you can just zoom out with the slider here and you can see what it looks like. So it looks pretty big. Now that looks a little bit messy, and what we can do is we can go ahead and use the options under the org chart tab here. If I go to the org chart tab here, I have this horizontal command. I can click on some of the display settings here, but you notice by default it looks like these are horizontally displayed. Now maybe I want to have it vertically displayed. So let me go over to the next command here and select on one of the options. So there's many options that are available for you. If I select left, you notice that nothing's changed here because basically I need to select something. So I need to actually select one of my shapes here that has a hierarchy. I'm going to go ahead and select Mary here. And I'll go ahead and go back to vertical and maybe have it left. And you notice that now Mary's, the folks that are under Mary have been changed. But maybe I don't want to do it just piecemeal. I want to do it for everything. So what I need to do is I need to select a little bit more and make sure these are selected, or I can just select in the group up here. Now we see that our upper management team here has been selected. I can go ahead and go back to vertical, select left, and so you notice that now it's pretty much put everything in a vertical display. Maybe that's not what we wanted. So if you really wanted to have a kind of a hierarchy top down, so what we can do is I'll go ahead and undo this. Let me go ahead and click undo a couple times. And I'm going to go ahead and click on best fit to page. So when I click on that, you'll notice, let me go ahead and move over here. I can actually scroll here by moving, or I can press the Control Shift keys and right click. And you notice now my cursor turns into a hand. And I can just kind of move that over here. I can just move that over here. Move it up a little bit. You notice now that it's kind of best fitted. It's kind of taking that hierarchy and kind of give it an optimal display based on what Visio thinks. So it kind of worked out a little bit. You also notice that there's this line here. So I think Visio has indicated that this has kind of gone over. It might fit over 2 pages. So I'm going to go ahead and select this and kind of move it over. Let's move Joe's group over here, right? So now it kind of fits into one page now. Let me go ahead and move over here. Kind of fits into one page. Let me go ahead and Control Shift and then right click and move it up a little bit here. So now we have our org chart here. So maybe this is a little bit hard to see because we want to do some editing on some of the folks here. And what we can do is we can click on one of them. Let's click on Charles. He has a lot of people under. Let's go ahead and hide his subordinates. And maybe we'll do the same for Jim here. We'll hide his subordinates and zoom in here. Control Shift and then left mouse click. Select my range I want to zoom into. And we zoomed into there. Now maybe you want to do some editing here, and now maybe we want to kind of make some edits here. I'll go ahead and right click. Maybe you want to have a divider line. That will give us the divider line between the name and the title. And I've done it for one here, but you can actually do it for all of them. Let me go ahead and undo that. Control Z to undo. And in order to do that, you can actually go under the display options under organization data. It's going to bring up another window here where you can show divider. If I click on that and click OK, you'll see that it's fitted for all. But there's also other options that you can do in display options. Let me go ahead and click again. You can change the shape display, the width and height. If we go into the fields, what we can do is we can also set other areas where we can display information. Right now it's only displaying the name and title. We can also display the department if there's a department there, or email or telephone. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that. So these are other metadata that is assigned to this shape. And you can also modify it. So you can actually move it up and down here. But there's also another window where you can set the properties of each of this data. So as you notice here, we have block 1, block 2, block 3 to block 5. So you can also show or display text in the different areas of the shape, the top left or bottom right. Right now it defaults to just in the middle, and we're going to keep it at that for now. Now this text field here, it lets you set some of the properties of the text, the font, the size, the color. We don't need to deal with that right now. So I'm just go ahead and click OK. So as mentioned earlier, there's some metadata for each of these shapes. If I right clicked and went into properties here, it lets you see the properties which you saw earlier, the department, the five that are available, department, telephone, name, title, email. The only things that show up right now are name and title. Now if we want to define it, if we click on define, it lets us change some of the further change some of the properties or set some of the properties here. So for example, department, it's a string, it's in English. You can have a prompt for it. There's other things that you can set. You can also set the parameters for telephone. You can see you can make it a string, or we can just have it as a number if you only want to have it enter numbers here. But we're going to go ahead and just click cancel. We're not going to go ahead and modify any of the properties here. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel here. So we're also going to look at how we can modify some of these things. So let's say we want a picture for Joe, and if we want to add a picture for each one of these, I'll go and show you how to do it for just one of them. So if we click on Joe and right click, we'll see that we can insert a picture. Now that's also available here in the picture group here. So we can either do it there, right click and go there, or we can do it here. So if I click insert picture, so let's say this is Joe. So we have our picture of Joe here. She's writing something on the wall. So once we enter the picture in here, you see it gets a little bit big. If we don't want to show the picture, we can actually hide it. If I click on Joe's shape here and click on the show hide command here, you can see it's disappeared. The picture is still there, but now it's just hidden. So we can keep building out these shapes here for folks under this person, but it gets a little bit big. And what we can do is for each of the ones that maybe have large organizations under them, what we can do is move them to another page. And that can be done with the create synchronized copy command here. So let's say Charles has a large organization. I'll go ahead and click on Charles here. And if I click on create synchronized copy, it's going to ask is we want to create one on a new page. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And you notice now there's a new page here, but now it's got Charles and his hierarchy. So if I go ahead and press Control Shift and kind of just zoom in here, you notice now that Charles is here and we have our 10 folks that belong to them. Now with Charles, maybe if I change, instead of I start to add names here, maybe I'll add under Charles, we'll add Mike, and Mike is a VP. We'll notice that when we change that here, if we go back to page 1 here and go ahead and click Charles and expand, we'll see that it has updated here because it's a synchronized copy of it. Now if I click on the second name here, I go ahead and double click it and change a name here. Let's change this to Sally. And Sally maybe is another VP. And click over here. You'll notice now that has changed too. So we have Mike and Sally. So that's the beauty of the synchronized copies. You can actually start to create other pages if you've got large organizations here where maybe you don't have that much room, and you can just go ahead and hide these subordinates, and you just have a higher level here. And if you want to click on over, you can get lower levels on other pages. Also with these subordinates under here, you can also move them around. So let me go ahead and expand the folks under Charles. Now let's say Sally should be moving up here. We can also move up. There's these arrows here that let us move up. So I've moved Sally up. So let me go ahead and hide these subordinates under Charles. If I just wanted this to be my main page, let me go ahead and kind of minimize this a little bit, zoom out here. If I just wanted this to be my main page printout, and I wanted to have something show up which company it is, I can actually just use this title shape, bring it over here, and we can have company name. I'd go ahead and double click on that, ABC Company, and that will print out for us. Now you might be looking at these grid lines and say, well, will these print out too? They will not print out. They're for the view, so you can actually have a guide to go ahead and create your Visio. So if we want under File and then Print, and clicked on Print Preview, you'll notice that the grid lines don't show up anymore. So I'm going to go and close that. But if the grid lines kind of bother you, you can also go under View and go under the Show Grid and just click on that, and the grid will disappear. But the grids is pretty helpful for you to kind of like give you a guide to move things around, so you might want to keep it back. It'll help you kind of visually align the shapes up. Now the last thing I probably want to cover is maybe you want to export it into a document like Excel, so you can have a spreadsheet view. And you can actually do that. If you go back to the org chart tab, there is this export command. You go ahead and click on that, and what you can do is you can export it as a Excel. There's other options here. You can export it as text or a CSV file. I'm going to go ahead and export it as Excel. So I'll call this org chart and click on save. And I'll show you what 3, 2, 1. You'll get this window that says the data exported successfully. Go and click OK, and I'll show you what it looks like here. So this is what the Excel file looks like. You notice that the first row is a header row. It has the fields, and the subsequent rows are the folks that we added. And you notice that Joe is the CEO, and Joe has 3 people that report to him. You can see the title. So we knew earlier Joe has 3 people that reports to him. Joe is the unique ID, ID1. So there's 3 people that report to him: Jim and Charles, and then we have Mary. So exporting the organizational chart from Visio to Excel would give you the ability to do some analysis on the data of the org chart. So that's always a good option. So let's go back into the Visio here. So if you want to create a quick org chart, Visio is probably a pretty decent tool to do that. There's a lot of options that are available in Visio. So doing it manually is not too difficult. So I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.